What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Thank you for watching the video. Today we have one that has been a very long time in the making. I've been getting requests on this for years, and today we're finally gonna make it happen. So I'm sure you are all very familiar with this little guy. This is the M855 green tip 5.56 round. Super common, been around forever, cheap, easy to find, and we've even done several videos with them here on the channel. It is a steel core bullet, so obviously its main benefit is defeating hard barriers. But that always came at the price of less impressive results in soft targets. I've heard it described as just punching tiny little pinholes in things. And you can look up stories from Somalia and other conflicts as well, where it just wasn't a super effective round in combat. Honestly, the last time we tested the green tip, I was not that disappointed. I thought it did pretty well. It exceeded my expectations, at least in a non-threat environment. Maybe in combat, it would be a different story, but you can go watch that video and see for yourself. Either way, today we finally have the one everybody's been waiting for, the round I probably get harassed about more often in the comments than any other, the newer, upgraded M855-A1. Yes, this is the new and improved version of the M855. It's a 62 grain bullet with the same hard barrier capabilities as the green tip, but supposedly a giant improvement in soft target performance and terminal ballistics. I've even heard people say it performs like a hollow point in soft targets. So for years, decades actually, the M855 green tip did one thing well and sucked at everything else and was heavily criticized for it. Well, they finally improved it, and today we are gonna see how much better the M855-A1 actually is. Let's get started. And for this one, we're gonna be using 10% clear ballistics gel. We've got two 16-inch blocks lined up back to back. So this is 32 inches of ballistics gel in total. Hopefully it's enough to stop these rounds. The problem with rifles is they rarely go straight when they hit targets like this. They're very unpredictable and you never really know what's gonna happen, but we'll give it our best shot. All right, we don't have a ton of room in the ballistics gel, so we're just gonna get straight to it, and we'll start with the M855-A1. This is my very first time ever shooting this round, so let's see what it does in bare ballistics gel. I should probably put on ear pro first. That would have been bad. This is not a caliber you wanna shoot without ear pro, trust me. All right, M855-A1, let's see what it does. Woo! Woo! I don't know if that flash was out of my muzzle or when the bullet hit the ballistics gel, but that looked crazy. Let's go check it out. Well, after watching the slow-mo, I believe that flash that I saw was from the bullet impact on the ballistics gel, and then it smoked like a chimney. So I'm trying not to be dramatic, which is why I usually don't say stuff like this. This might be the most impressive 5.56 I have ever tested on the channel. This is crazy. So that is where our bullet went into the ballistics gel right there. I wish I would have put it a little bit more to the side because we need all the room we can get. But either way, if you look at the top of this thing, there's a lot going on. So within the first 2 or 3 inches, we have a ton of fragmenting. There's like 50 little fragments where that bullet started opening up, and then the wound cavity really starts showing. You can see within the first, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches, that wound cavity grew. It looks like part of the projectile exited out the side of the gel block right there. And then our steel core penetrated to about 31 inches in the ballistics gel and came to a stop right there. So we have like 3 different results going on with one bullet here. We have the fragmenting in the first couple inches, the massive wound cavity from the projectile that obviously tumbled and yawed and exited out the side. And then we have the deep penetration from the steel core all the way down there at the end of our second block. It's literally like the best of every type of round you could get from the 5.56. We've got fragmenting, massive wound cavity, energy dispersion, and extreme penetration. So I guess the only downside I could see is if you don't want your bullet to over penetrate, this might not be the one for you, obviously. But aside from that, this thing rules. My God. Okay, now we'll go ahead and try the green tip M855, the old version. Like I said, when I've tested this, I was not as disappointed as everybody else seems to be. I thought it did pretty well, but after seeing that, I don't think anything compares to that. Let's try the green tip. I'm gonna try to put it right below the M855-A1. Big old wound cavity. Let's go check it out. Okay, this is interesting. Our green tip went in about 1.5 inches below the M855-A1, and if we come over here, you can see the wound cavity. Very big wound cavity. I would not complain about that. Pretty impressive in the first 6 to 8 inches of ballistic shell. It doesn't look like it really broke apart at all. I see one little fragment right there, but other than that, it's just a wound cavity. Quite the contrast from the M855-A1. And then it penetrated through the first gel block and barely into the second. So that is actually the entire green tip portion of that bullet. Just popped it out of there. So that is the metal core. If I could get it to focus, that would be sweet. But that's the green tip, and yep, you can see the metal core right there. And then the lead portion of the bullet actually penetrated like 2 inches further, and it came to a stop right there. I don't know that I've ever captured one of these completely intact like that. Kind of interesting. Now, like I said, rifle rounds in ballistic shell are not super consistent. You basically get different results every time you shoot them, but that was interesting. Not nearly as much penetration as the M855-A1, and I would argue quite a bit less damage on the front end as well. It basically split in two, the green tip and the lead projectile. Other than that, the entire bullet basically stayed intact. So that's why they say the green tip just hole punches things and the M855-A1 destroys things. I think the A1 won that test by a mile. All right, guys, we're gonna up the stakes on this test a little bit. Right here, I have a 1/4 inch thick piece of steel that we used in a previous video. The bullet hole is from a 338 Lapua. This is not like extremely hardened steel, but it is steel and it's a 1/4 inch thick. So I would consider that a good hard barrier. Obviously, this is what these rounds are designed for, so let's see how they perform after passing through something like that. And by the way, I did swap the ballistic shell blocks. I put the one that was in front in the back, so we have a little bit more room to see the results. I also stepped back about 15 yards, so we'll go ahead and start with the M855-A1. Let's see what it does. Looks like it zipped right through. Let's go check it out. All right, that is our entrance hole on the steel plate from the M855-A1. Not a clean pinhole like I expected to see. It definitely went through, but it does look like there was a little resistance. I even see some of the copper jacket still in that hole. So interesting. If we look at the ballistic shell, that is our entrance hole right there towards the bottom. And then if we go around to the side, this is crazy. So keep in mind, this piece here and this piece here were already in the gel. Those are from our last two shots, but everything else you see is from the M855-A1. So we have more bullet fragments in the first couple inches right there. About 6 to 8 inches in, we have some much bigger fragments, also bigger wound cavities. And then down here at probably 12 to 13 inches, is our steel core. Right there towards the bottom of the gel. Hopefully you guys can see that, and then I believe that is just some jacket from the bullet. But if we zoom out a bit, you can see the entire result. For a bullet that just passed through a steel plate, that is pretty dang impressive, I gotta say. So I thought the metal plate would definitely prevent the fragmenting that we saw in the bare ballistic shell, and it did tone it down a little bit. It's obviously not as dramatic as the first one, but for a bullet that just went through a steel barrier, that is a very impressive result. And our metal core got over 12 inches of penetration, which is plenty in my opinion. Let's try the green tip. All right, next up we have the green tip M855, the OG version. I'm kind of hoping the steel plate will improve the results of the green tip because this is what it's designed for. So I'm gonna try to put this one a little bit higher. Woo! I don't know where it hit, but that metal plate went crazy. Let's go check it out. All right, there is our metal plate laying on the ground. It got yeeted like 5 feet off the table. And if you look at the entrance hole from the green tip, it is a much cleaner hole right there on the top. And then the M855-A1 is down there to the left. So they both went through it, but the green tip was a cleaner pass through. No doubt about it. If we look at the ballistic shell, it went in right there towards the top, which is what I wanted, so you guys can actually see the result behind all the others. And if we go over here, that is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That actually might look better from the top, but you can see how dirty that wound cavity is. I'm not sure if that's from the bullet or the steel, but either way, that's definitely the darkest result that we've had so far. And then we have probably 15 to 20 fragments all over the place. And that ballistic shell definitely broke the bullet apart. I believe our steel core is the deepest fragment right there. Probably 10 inches into the ballistic shell. It did not penetrate as far as the A1, which is down there, but it did penetrate further than the rest of the bullet. And just to give you another look at it, so you can see, it looks like we squirted ink into the ballistic shell. I do believe one fragment exited out the top of the gel block, but other than that, they all stayed in there. Now, one thing I can't help but notice is the difference between the first and second result with the green tip. It looks like two totally different rounds, whereas the M855-A1 did not change quite as much. Obviously, there was a difference. It didn't get as much penetration, but overall, it looks like it stays more consistent from bare ballistic shell to hard barrier penetration. So my synopsis is the M855-A1 is the far superior round. I think it easily wins this test by a mile. Honestly, it might be my new favorite 5.56 round. I probably wouldn't use it for home defense in an apartment because you don't want over penetration, but other than that, I think the M855-A1 absolutely rules. I'm very impressed. All right, guys, there it is, the M855-A1. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I've been getting requests to do this video for years, it seems like. So I'm glad we were finally able to get it done. If there's anything else you would like to see with this round, let me know down in the comments, and we'll try to get more and do more videos with it in the future. I fully approve. It's one of my favorite 5.56s I've ever tested, if not my overall favorite. This round just absolutely destroys. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. As always, I'd be glad to hear from you. If you liked the video, please hit the like button for me, guys. I would really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.